The church smelled of roses and polished wood, of old prayers trapped beneath vaulted ceilings. Candlelight flickered against stained glass, bleeding colors across the aisle like fractured souls in confession. I sat in the third pew, spine stiff, hands clasped so tightly my knuckles had turned white. Around me, laughter swirled, a symphony of joy I couldn't partake in. The air buzzed with celebration, voices hushed in reverence for the moment about to unfold. At the altar, he stood, adjusting his cufflinks, feigning nonchalance. My best friend. My brother in everything but blood. Daniel had always been charming, the kind of man who could slip into a room and steal its warmth without anyone noticing the cold he left behind. And then there was her, the woman I once called mine. When the doors creaked open and she stepped inside, my stomach coiled tight. Emily. Dressed in ivory, her veil whispering against her shoulders, a ghost of the vows we once exchanged. Her eyes scanned the crowd, pausing for the briefest, cruelest second on me. And in that moment, I saw it. Not love. Not regret. Fear. Because she knew what I knew. Not yet. Not yet. Weeks ago, I might have walked into this church believing in fate, in second chances. Daniel and Emily had spun their story well, a tragic romance born from my supposed neglect, from love that had wilted before they ever dared touch. That was the lie they whispered, the one they let fester. And I had believed them. At first. But shadows have a way of surfacing, and truth is a parasite. It feeds, it grows. It started with a voicemail, a message left by mistake. A hushed conversation, heavy with things unspoken. Does he know? Not yet. But I think he suspects. A sickness had settled in my gut that night, cold and writhing. I hadn't confronted them immediately. Instead, I did what they never expected. I watched. I listened. I learned. And in the quiet, I uncovered something far worse than betrayal. Emily hadn't just left me. Daniel hadn't just stolen her. They had built their love on something rotten. And now, in this church, surrounded by people who believed in fairy tales, I was going to tear it all down. The priest's voice was steady, calling for silence as the ceremony began. Daniel turned to Emily, his smile a polished thing. The kind of smile that hid secrets between its teeth. Do you take this man? I rose. The sound of the wooden pew scraping against the marble floor was deafening. Heads turned. Whispers rippled. Emily's breath hitched. Daniel's fingers twitched at his side. Before you say I do. My voice was calm. Measured. There's something you need to hear. A murmur spread through the crowd, uncertainty threading the joy. The priest hesitated. Emily took a step back. Don't. Her voice barely above a whisper. I reached into my pocket, pulling out my phone, the screen already unlocked. Should I play it? Or would you rather confess? Daniel's expression barely flickered. He had always been good under pressure, but even he couldn't mask the slight tightening of his jaw. Sit down, he said, low, dangerous. I pressed play. The church filled with the sound of voices muffled, frantic. A conversation neither of them had known was recorded. He'll find out. And when he does, we'll deal with it. How? What if he tells someone? Then we make sure he never does. Gasps rippled through the guests. Emily's mother clutched her chest. The priest stepped back. Tell me, Daniel, I said, my voice steady, what exactly were you planning to do with me once I knew everything? His mask cracked then. Just a hairline fracture. A flicker of rage beneath the surface. Emily reached for him, her fingers shaking. You said. Shut up, he snapped. And just like that, the golden boy's disguise slipped. He took a step toward me. I saw it then, what had always lurked beneath the surface. Not a best friend. Not a brother. A threat. Careful, I murmured, tilting my head. There are a lot of people watching. Daniel hesitated. His hands curled into fists. You didn't just take her from me, I continued, voice smooth as glass. You stole more than that. You stole money. You lied. And when I got too close to the truth, you planned to get rid of me. A rustle of movement. A guest lawyer stood up. What is he talking about? I turned my gaze to Emily. Would you like to explain? Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't know. I laughed, the sound hollow. Don't lie to me. Not now. A pause. A beat of silence so thick it could suffocate. Then Emily did the one thing I never expected. She turned away from Daniel. And ran. The wedding never finished. The guests trickled out, murmuring, avoiding my gaze as though betrayal was contagious. Daniel didn't run. He didn't need to. The police would come soon enough. I stepped outside, inhaling the crisp winter air. The weight in my chest had not yet lifted, but something had shifted. I wasn't the same man who had walked into this church. I had come to bury ghosts. And I had succeeded. I turned my back on the church, on the ruins of what once was. And I walked away. Not broken. Not lost. But free.